My nephew, whom I'll call D, lives about 3 miles down the road from me, with his lovely wife, whom I'll call Anna, and their 3 beautiful, sweet-loving pit bulls, Ty, Bella, and Jixter. About 4 years ago, not far down the way from us, maybe 7 to 8 miles, some people were having a summer barbecue, and things got heated and out of hand. These people weren't good people. Apparently, a few days prior, the man hosting the barbecue had a falling out with one of his friends. Anyways, this guy shows up hoping to patch things up. But his wife and a couple others start a ruckus, gunfire was exchanged, and the host ended up killing his friend. Word was that they were all drug heads, drug dealers and thieves. At the time of the incident, a lot of the partygoers were drunk or high, and as if that wasn't bad enough, their 3-year-old daughter was there in the midst of this fight with bullets flying. Luckily though, she wasn't hurt. The host and a few of his buds were arrested and held awaiting trial for murder and accessory to murder. Fast forward about 2 months, and his wife and baby daughter are still there, with their other drug-dealing, thieving friends hanging around. I had heard that there were several break-ins in the area from my neighbor, who is a volunteer fireman. Things like TVs, computers, money, jewelry, and basically anything of great value was carried off by these crooks, and some people suspected this girl and her clan of drugged-up hillbillies were responsible, as reports of vehicles fitting the description of theirs were given. Unfortunately, my nephew D and his wife Anna were victims of these assholes, and not only did they steal 2 big-screen TVs, Anna's laptop, D's PlayStation and several games, $800 in cash he had to pay his utility bills and insurance, but they also stole his fur baby Jixter. They tried to steal Bella, but she went all Cujo on them, so they left her alone. Luckily, Ty was with Anna at the vet, getting his booster shots, since he was only 6 months old, and was a newer addition to the bunch. Dee's neighbor, whom they are really great friends with, witnessed him coaxing and trying to force Jixter in the car, and called him on his cell to ask if any one of his friends or relatives were picking up Jixter for any reason, and of course he said no. The neighbor was already in his car preparing to go to the local gas station, so he decided to follow them, and coincidentally, they were going to the gas station too. I should state that where we live is out in the rural part surrounded by woods and farms, where the local gas station is the closest store out this way, for about 20 miles in either direction, if not more. Everybody knows everybody, and this gas station is the place to go to find out anything about what's going on around here. The people that own the gas station know my nephew D, and he is really good friends with them as he stops by every morning on his way to work, and frequently when he needs gas. They also know his dogs really well too, as they are always riding with him, especially Jixter. He's always riding shotgun. Anyways, back to the guns. When they pulled up, the girl went in followed by the neighbor tailing her, and she was bragging to the station owner about her beautiful new pit bull she just purchased from a breeder, and all this other bullcrap. The station owner took one look at Jixter and knew he was D's, and that he would never in a million years part with him. The station owner knew who she was, and after she left, the neighbor filled him in, and they called my nephew to tell him to stop by the shop so they could talk to him. After he stopped there and got all the details about what went down, he headed back home to check out his house, and that's when he discovered his house had been broken into. He wasn't too concerned at that moment with calling the cops. He just wanted to go get his precious Jixter back. And that's what he damn well intended to do. So he grabbed his 9mm, hopped in his truck, and made his way to the bitch's house. When he got there, she was on the porch with some guy drinking and smoking, and some other guy came out of the trailer. She asked him who the hell he was, and what he wanted, and the two guys tried to play it all tough, telling him to leave. He told them, "I'm not leaving this fucking property until that skank-ass bitch gives me my damn dog back." She yelled to him that they don't have a dog. So my nephew yelled Jixter's name. And about that time, Jixter jumped up on the couch, in the house, tearing at the blinds, barking at hearing Dee call for him. My nephew said, "Oh really? Tell me again now you don't have a fucking dog. And my fucking dog on top of that." He told her that his neighbors saw her take him, and that the station owner recognized Jixter as his. She tried to say she got it from some breeder again, and then one of the guys chimed in that it's best he leave before he ends up like the last guy who trespassed. My nephew responded once again, "I am not leaving this fucking property without my dog." The other guy and the girl said,
"You want to bet you'll be getting off my property?"
At this point, my nephew lifts his shirt to show his holstered 9mm and says, "Oh yeah, motherfuckers. This 9mm right here says otherwise. And that's my motherfucking dog, and I want him out of here now by the count of 3, or I fucking swear I got a bullet for each one of you motherfuckers with your name on it." Before he could even begin to count to 3, one of the guys opened the door to the trailer, and outruns Jixter, happily to my nephew. He backs away, opens the door to his truck. Jixter climbs in, and before he leaves he tells them, "I swear to God, if I ever see any of you motherfuckers anywhere near me, my wife, my dogs, or my property again, and if I even see you drive down the goddamn road I live on, you will all be fucked up. 'Cause I won't hesitate to pump you sons of bitches' asses full of lead. Now do I make my fucking self clear?" And with that, he got in his truck and left. When he got home, he called the cops to report the break-in. His property couldn't be retrieved. But luckily, he had insurance to cover it, and the people were investigated. A while later, some were arrested on drug charges and breaking and entering, and the girl was eventually evicted from her property. My nephew, his wife, Jixter, Bella, and Ty still live in the same house with some extra added security, like cameras, alarms, and a gate for the driveway. They haven't had any more break-ins or dog-nappings since. So I don't think my nephew has to be the one to worry about meeting these jackasses again. I think they are the ones who should worry about crossing paths with my nephew again. I am 24 now, and this happened when I was approximately 12 years old. I was at home with my sister and her friend, who were both around 9. My mom had gone out somewhere, I can't remember where, but she said she would be gone for 2 hours. I had asked if we could go into the park that was nearby our home at the time, so that we could feed the ducks. To get a better idea, the park I am talking about was less of a park and more of a series of trails secluded by areas of dense trees. Along the main trails were smaller trails that led to the openings that met with a small lake, pond. If I were to walk out into the middle of the lake, the water would really only go up to my waist. Most of the houses in our neighborhood backed onto some part of the trail. So my mom said we could go as long as we did not stay long, and left a note on the table with what time we left the house. Me being 12, I was quite excited about being able to take care of 2 younger kids, who were also excited to go out without parents. So we took our duck feed and headed off to the park. It is important to note that I am quite fair-skinned, blue-eyed, with light blonde hair. My sister and her friend are both a skin shade or 2 darker with brown hair and brown eyes. We are all females. We headed for an opening with a bench about 3 minutes from the start of the trail. that had a great spot to feed the ducks, which was our usual spot. As we approached the clearing, I saw a bike leaning on a tree, and I remember feeling odd about that because 99% of the time that we had walked on that spot, there was never anyone there. As we entered the clearing, I saw an overweight older man with buzz-cut hair and a very distinct bright yellow rain jacket. I felt uncomfortable about this. However, a part of me wanted to be adult-like and brave, so I did not choose to move to a different spot. I pretended that I did not feel uncomfortable, so I did not scare my sister and her friend, both sensitive and easy to scare kids, and gave them some duck feed to bring the ducks closer to us. As they approached the waterline, I hung back to keep an eye on this older man, who had not said anything to us at this point. After a few minutes, he started talking to me. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it were things like, "Nice day to be out for a walk," or "Lots of ducks around here." He was quite enthusiastic and kept attempting to start a conversation. I was giving small one-word answers to let him know I was not interested in talking. I felt it was way too weird for an older man to be talking to girls as young as us. It was also weird because he refused to look or talk to the other two with me. After repeated attempts on his part to start a conversation, and my many attempts at stopping it, I decided I was too creeped out. I walked towards my sister and her friend and told them that we were leaving. As I did this, the man said, "Wait, you look like a nice girl." At this point I had stopped and turned around. Red flags everywhere. I looked at him and all I said was, "Okay?" My sister and her friend at this point had stopped and were intently listening. To give you a visual, I was now standing between my sister and her friend, who were staring at the waterline of the lake, and the bench where the man was sitting. The man continued talking, but unfortunately, I don't remember a lot of what he said because I was so freaked out. I was also formulating a plan that, if shit hit the fan, I would tell them to swim across the lake and run home. I do remember pretending to pay attention and nodding my head a lot. Then the man reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He gave it to me and asked me to read the paper and think really hard about the message. I said, "Thanks, I'll do that when I get home." I dropped the paper onto the top of our duck feed bucket and pushed my sister and her friend in front of me and started walking away. As soon as we had left the clearing, I told them we needed to run home. Both of them were now freaking out because they knew that the whole interaction was strange, and they knew I was not comfortable. I told them to run to our home while I lugged the duck feed bucket with the weird paper with me. By the time we had gotten home, my mom was back, and my sister and her friend were now crying. My mom asked me what the hell happened, so I told her what had happened and handed her the paper that I had been given. I watched her face as she started to read it, which became visibly more distressed. She finally put down the paper and told me to go play with my sister. A while later, I still wondered about the note, so I went and asked my mom what the heck the note said. She asked me if I remembered what I learned in school about Hitler and World War II. I said yes, I do. She told me that in the note was a long explanation as to why the Aryan race was superior. That only fair-skinned, blonde-haired and blue-eyed people were pure, and went on to say that we need to rise up and join together to preserve our rightful place. Needless to say, my family does not believe that garbage, and it deeply disturbed my mom. She phoned our police station and made a report, and they told her that there have been multiple reports about this man doing this to other people that match the Aryan race, and they were actively searching for him. So, creepy guy in the park, let's not meet again. So, I always seem to attract weirdos. It's a fact I came to terms with a good while ago. There have been a few times in my 25 years where some freak has acted really creepy around me. But none unsettled me more than this guy. So it was around 2012, when I just started a new job working in a convenience store. I couldn't have been there more than a month or so, as I'd not received my first pay packet yet, and I was really low on money. Usually I'd drive to work, but my car needed a little work done, so I'd cycled that day. The town was fairly small and in the middle of nowhere. I'd been there all my life, and nothing bad had ever really happened. I felt safe there. At the store, I got to know the regulars pretty quickly. It wasn't common for an out-of-towner to come in. We were quite out of the way. The kind of place you had to know was there already, hiding on the outskirts of an already out-of-the-way place. So when this guy came in, this guy with a teardrop tattoo under his bright blue yet sunken left eye, I immediately noticed. I kept an eye on the CCTV we had set up, hidden beneath the counter. It looked suspicious from the offset. The vast majority of our customers looked respectable, wearing smart work clothes and commuting to and from office jobs of a morning, evening. Either that, or they were set to go and do manual labor. Farmers were a fairly common sight in the place, as fields surrounded the area. But in the month or so I'd been there, this was the first time I'd seen someone who looked anything like this. Before long, he brought a few items over to me. A 4-pack of beers, 2 cans of cola, a newspaper, a bar of chocolate, and some chewing gum. Then he asked for a pack of cigarettes. He handed over a couple of notes to pay for his haul while trying to make light conversation. "Do you know the quickest way to the hospital? My dad's really sick and I'm supposed to be going to see him, but I've managed to get myself lost," he asked. He almost seemed sincere, but there was just something off about him. "If you turn left out of here, keep going for a mile or so down the road, then there's a fork in the road. Take the right there, keep going another couple of miles until you reach a crossroads, keep going straight over those crossroads, and you should reach the next town. Next junction you come to, take a right, then it should be your second right after that." I smiled, trying to be polite. I didn't want to seem fazed by him, but he made me feel seriously uneasy. "Thanks," he replied. He picked his bag up and left. I watched as he walked to his beat-up old blue Ford Mondeo, got in, and drove away. A few hours went by, and I totally forgot about the guy. My shift was over, and it was time for me to go home. So I fixed my helmet and unlocked my bike chain, preparing for the 15-minute cycle to the other side of town. When I noticed the same old blue Mondeo the shifty guy left in earlier. I figured he must have been stopping in again on his way back from the hospital. Mounting my bike, I started my journey home. After a couple of minutes, I came to a crossroads. Stopping, I looked both ways before crossing it to continue my journey. This is when I couldn't help but notice the Mondeo in my peripheral vision again. It was then I knew this creep was following me. Luckily, after the crossroads, I managed to put a few vehicles' distance between the two of us. I decided to take a cheeky shortcut. I'm not sure about elsewhere, but in the UK, it's technically illegal to cycle on the pavement, except for when there's a designated lane for it. But doing so cuts a good couple of minutes off my journey. Plus, in this situation, it was going to put more distance between me and the teardrop tattoo Mondeo guy. So I decided to take the risk. Unfortunately for me, the risk didn't really do me any favors. The shortcut cuts a huge bend out, but still takes you further up the same road. There I saw he stopped at the side of the road a little further back. Clearly he decided to stop once he lost sight of me. That was it for me. I was getting so freaked out at this point. I pedaled literally as fast as I possibly could. I knew I'd never outrun him, but I also knew I wasn't far from a friend's house, where I could possibly stop until he gave up. I kept thinking to myself, if I could just get there, things would be alright. A minute or so later, there I was, breathless, dripping with sweat that was caused through a mixture of physical exertion, fear, and sheer adrenaline. I banged on the door as hard as I could. It seemed like an eternity, but it must only have been a few seconds before the door swung open. It couldn't have happened at a more perfect time. The Mondeo was just coming to a stop on the other side of the street. I barged my way in, annoying my friend at first. It was 11 p.m. after all, and she was due to go up to bed any time now. Once I caught my breath, I explained everything. She sat with me, calmed me down, brought me water, let me shower and borrow a set of her clothes. All of this must have taken around a couple of hours. Peering through the curtains, I saw the blue Mondeo was still on the other side of the street. That's when we called the police. Soon after we saw flashing lights, but I didn't dare open the curtain. I decided to stay with my friend that night, to be on the safe side. In the morning the car was gone. I don't know whether the police arrested him, and his car was towed, or whether he was just sent on his way, but I feel lucky my friend opened her door that night, or I may not have been able to write this. These days, if my car is being worked on, I fork out for a hire car rather than cycling at night. It may cost more than I'd like, but my life is worth more than money. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to episode 33. Now I've got lots of extra time to myself this week, a well-earned week off work. So with any luck I'll have a few extra videos up. I haven't decided exactly what I'm uploading, but I believe there should be more true scary stories. And also, I'm hoping, let's say Friday or Saturday, to have that special I was working on. Just looking for a few more stories to get it done with. I should have enough time to compile everything I need. I think you'll enjoy the results. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take good care of yourselves.